Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. We'll be talking about getting more women into the tech space. My guest today, Roberta Lucca, will just be telling us about her own journey and how she's overcome that pain. Who is she? Roberta Lucca is a well-represented serial entrepreneur, international keynote speaker, and host of the Hyper Curiosity podcast. She's an MBA Brazilian British founder and grew multiple businesses, including the BAF-winning Brossa Studio, a venture-backed multi-million pounds game company, widely regarded for its creativity at scale approach and reaches of millions of millennials and Generation Z consumer worldwide. She's a Forbes top 50 women in tech, and she's been featured in world-renowned media outlets such as Sky, BBC, Times Radio, FT, Disney Channel, Mary Claire, many more to name. She's an expert in and frequently speaks about high-growth entrepreneurship, creativity, diversity, and much more. She brings first-hand 20 years of experience in launching dozens of innovative products, companies, games, and helping leaders take disruptive action to grow their businesses while improving leadership. Her mission, listen, is to empower people and organizations to see the future from a fresh perspective and think literally and act boldly. Can I say any more? I think let's meet our guests, because I believe anyone who's listening to this will learn a thing or two about believing in yourself, about overcoming challenges and finding your joy. Meet my special guest, Roberta Lucca. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation again with myself and Welsh. We'll be talking about on the entrepreneurship journey. It's not easy. Anyone who knows or who has ever been an entrepreneur will know the struggles, the pain we all have to go through. But at the same time, the joy we find when we achieve our success. My guest today, as I said in my intro, Roberta Lucca, will be telling us about her own journey and how she's found her own joy. Roberta, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you took this time out to speak to me. I know how busy you are. You've achieved massive success for women, especially in an industry that's quite male dominated. You've broken barriers. You went into the gay space. This is my son's space. You went in there and you got them understanding, what you do, and you made this company. Before we get into all of that, can you tell me a little bit, in few words, who are you?
I always struggle to define myself in few words. And it's a great first question because, and that's a pet peeve of mine, because I think we're now in an era of the world where we do so many things and we are so many things in different settings, right? And in the past, you would have the polymaths, the Renaissance man, women, person, right? You have nowadays a multi-potentialite. So when I think about who I think I am a multi-potentialite. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creative. I'm an artist. I am a loving daughter and hopefully a great wife as well. I'm a mega high achiever, so I have to look after myself, otherwise I burn out. And I love, having fun and in connecting with people and enjoying life as it's coming to me. So yeah, too many things, right? So I always try to use few words, but it never works.
But they're very good things. So I love the way you describe yourself. I know you really set it up, and because you one thing you just mentioned at the end is that you're a high achiever, but you also love to look after yourself. I think it's something that so many people tend to forget. You're a high achiever, you want to achieve success, but the most important thing is that you have to think about yourself as well. Because if your physical health is not achieving success, there's very little you could do on the outer world. You're growing up. You have chosen a niche area as a career to focus on, and you're doing things very, very male dominated. Can you tell me about your background growing up? Because I'm trying to stem, where did this love for the game industry come up? You know, where did it come from?
Yeah, I when I was I don't know, maybe 16 years old, it was the time when I was exploring, starting to, having the pressure to choose what I'm going to do at university and stuff like that. And I always loved everything about technology, about the future. I was always connected to the latest things that were happening. And my mom, I think she observed that and she was like, I'm going to invest in you. And instead of giving me a piano, she gave me a computer. So actually, I wish she had given me a piano as well, because nowadays I would love to be able to play the piano. But she gave me a computer, and at the time there wasn't very much. I mean, it was before the internet even. So now I'm telling my age, right? And the first thing that I wanted to do was to play games. I was like, what can I do with this machine? And I started to play games and I loved that. And I decided to go and take, computer science as my first degree at university. And kind of there, everything about games came from there. But I think games is just, to me nowadays, the way that I see the industry, it's basically the future of entertainment. It's technology combined with entertainment. That's what and art, right? That's what games is all about. So for me, like when I had the opportunity to start a company in the games industry, I was like, wow, this is combining a lot of different things that I always want to explore in my life. And that's how everything started. So I have been adding a lot of bricks to myself, and gaming was one of them.
Did you ever sit down? Because most women, growing up, yeah, women are always told this is what you should do, this is what you should ever not do. Did you ever sit back and say, okay, this is how I want my career to transition as I get older?
No,
No.
I no, I I think I'm the kind of person who was always throwing myself into the unknown, always hyper curious. That's why my podcast, always hyper curious to understand the world, to understand where I could be, to understand where I could be a beginner again and start to learn new things. How can I connect the dots? The other day, actually it was today, I was on LinkedIn and there was a question about what was your first job. That brought me fond memories. And my first job, as I was doing, my studies at university, was to be a salesperson door to door in Brazil, in Rio. And that was while I was doing computer science. So can you see that? It's like selling and technology. Exactly. So I always love to explore those things and see how those things kind of connect. And later in life, as the years progressed, I've done courses in fashion design, shoe design, sculpture, stand-up comedy. Now I'm learning how to sing. So it's like I love to craft my future in the best way possible by following my curiosity. So I never really said this is what's gonna be. And to be honest, and I think it was probably out of a struggle to define one thing. I was never wanting or able to say this is the one thing I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. And I always kind of challenged society when they try to pigeonhole me. So out of rebellion, I was like, I'm going to try something different and I'll see where it's going to take me.
I love that concept though. I love that because I see with my kids they're meant to different bends. My son wants to do this, wants to do this, and sometimes I let them drive creatively because you just never know where that would lead them on, where that would lead one to. And that also leads me to my question because you are a serial entrepreneur, as they really describe you. Everything I've read about you, everything I've seen in you, everyone describes you as a serial entrepreneur and the co-founder of the BAF-winning Boss Studio, a VC-backed multi-million pounds dollar video game company based in London. I saw that and I said, she did a gaming company. How did you start? Where did you get the initiative? Secondly, to get the funding, you're a woman. This is something women are always scared of, even thinking about. They could even do something. Then you go to a male-dominated kind of thing. This is gaming. It's not something you hear a woman saying she's the one doing it. What were the challenges, Roberta, to do something like this?
Yeah, lots of challenges, right? So there are so many layers to that. So winning a BAFTA award, I usually say that was completely unexpected in my life. It was like that's something that I never aimed because it was like so like it's like for actors winning the Oscars and like that's something that I never really pursued, but it kind of happened. And then when it happens, it's like okay, there's something there that it's quite amazing, right? But all the other points that you mentioned about raising funds and building a team and building a company and having, all the struggles from finding the best people to work with you, to launch a product, to market well, to succeed, not succeed, is like all in between. I think for me, when I was working in large corporations, I was working in large corporations before starting Bossa Studios. And I worked in the second largest broadcaster, TV broadcaster in Brazil. I worked at Nokia, the old mobile phone companies back here in the UK. And I was in a situation in my career that I was getting more and more exposed to environments where I was the only woman in the room. So it was very, very common for me, becoming a manager, managing teams or managing projects, that in my position, that was it. And I looked around, and for some reason, I was always able to speak up. And I blame it on my mom because she's such a high achiever. And she was kind of growing up in the 80s, super high achiever and kind of working full time. So I think I borrowed that from her to say, you know what? I'm here because I deserve to be here. Of course, sometimes imposter syndrome comes to your mind. But most of the time I was able to just, deal with that, to be surrounded by people who were very different from me, and male and etc., and be okay with that. So to your question, when I started to craft what Bossa Studios would be with my two co-founders, who are male, by the way, I was very comfortable with that. I was like, this is amazing. I can create something from scratch. And I will be able to, since the beginning of the inception of a company, be very mindful of the balance, the gender balance, the nationality balance, and everything, diversity that you would need for a company to succeed, right? And I felt very much in the responsibility seat to be able to make that happen. So I never thought there was a problem when I started Bossa Studios. To me, it was more like, I'm so glad I have this opportunity. I'm going to take the most out of it to make something good to the world.
It's very true. I think it came to you that you were never afraid of what the opportunities were. And I credit that, like you did, to your parents and your upbringing, your mother, who had this vocal, who is proud, who she is, and she gave that, installed that into you. And I think from your experience, do you think it's very important that parents install confidence from your growing up in their kids? What would your thoughts be?
Absolutely. I think it's, I believe in the mixture of nature and nurture, right? So it's, and the environment and everything. So if you are a parent, absolutely. I think it's so crucial for you to be challenging the way that society would box your kids, right? The boy needs to be playing and being in fighting and etc., and the girl needs to behave and needs to wear little pretty dresses and be very pretty all the time and not get dirty, right? So I think when you raising, and I don't have kids, but I can project that about myself, right, as I was growing up. But you have to be able to give them space to develop certain multiple identities on the way that they prefer to behave in the world. And I think it's the other thing that I'm not saying that everything is roses in my life, or it was roses. I bet there were many challenging moments for my mom as well, as working mom, like 24/7, divorced and etc., raising myself and my sister. But I do feel that she struck a good balance of the kind of self-critic, the high achiever, like go and be independent woman, go and fight for your stuff, and earn your money. Don't, depend on anything for you to succeed. And also the kindness to say, hey, I'm here for you if you ever need someone to talk to, right? So I think that kind of balance was maybe accidentally right, but it kind of worked.
No, I think it worked for you. I think it definitely did, because you seem like a well-grounded person who very confident, you know what direction you need to go. And I think lots of women, once we start seeing that, more well-grounded women, it makes such a huge difference. You normally share with your audiences your experience as a founder and leaders who both successfully succeeded and those who failed. You help them, you guide them through this process. Why did you decide to also navigate yourself in that process to help people who business leaders to understand better how they're progressing in life?
I was like a lot of women, right? Being a very heads down high achiever for a lot of years of my life. I was like, I need to get this done. I need to, it doesn't matter the communication side of it. I'm just going to make things work and make things done, right? Do things. And I remember once it was actually the first time that I was put in a situation when I was working at Nokia to do a presentation to like 500 people, employees in the area that I used to work at. And I almost freaked out last minute. And I said to my boss at the time, I said, I'm not sure if I'm prepared to do that. It's like the first time I'm, actually doing a public speech inside a company, and like there's hundreds of people here. and I'm so glad that he was so supportive and said, no, you do that. You're going to talk about that as well. And then those things clicked in my mind. And later on, there were other struggles. Like I saw a colleague of mine who got a promotion that I was very looking forward to have, and he got it first. And when I observed, he was not only doing the things he was doing, but he was doing very well and communicating very well. And so those two elements started to connect in my mind. It's like, okay, I need to be a better communicator about the things that I do, not only doing the things that I do, because otherwise the world is not going to know. And I found myself doing exactly the same thing as I was building my companies. I was not sharing enough. And the fact that I don't have kids, I'm not going to, be sharing even with my kids, right? Just with my nephews and nieces. And so 3 years ago, I said, you know what? I think I feel the need now to change that and start to communicate and start passing the knowledge, start sharing things that I've been through. And because I've done it, so I'm a practitioner. I'm just not someone who's just, talking the talk, but I can talk the walk or walk the talk, whatever, right? So that urge kind of came to me out of the struggles, but out of this need to communicate and to share with the world and to inspire other people. And I started very clunkily, right? It's like, as you do, like, I'm going to do a YouTube channel. And it was like crazy. I did the branding, I did everything. And it was like trying to find the right people to help me on the whole process of the videographer, the editor, everything that, it's required for you to do a really good content. And that started, this communicator side of me to develop. I started a podcast, and I started to do paid public speaking events as well. So, and nowadays I'm very comfortable with trying to, package and understand the stuff that I've done into something that I communicate very well to an audience, depending on what they need.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of them, and they're very inspiring because you talk to them about various challenges. You talk to women about finding their confidence as well. And I really encourage anyone to go to your YouTube channel and listen to some of your talks, because it's really, really good, especially the way you talk about it, and you talk about your own downfall. So you're not just saying, okay, guys, I'm telling you this journey, you go on this journey. No, you're saying I've been on this path, and this is my own thing. So you could either go this path or and it's really not. I love it, and I would definitely.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that.
No, I really do. I watched a couple of it, and really, really informative. And you really get that when you listen to some people's conversation or things on YouTube. It's not they're not really going deep, but you really say, guys, this is me. I'm telling you, yes, it is. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, make it all sound rosy. But at the same time, I'm also telling you, you can achieve success because that leads me to my question is here. You've been listed in Forbes as one of the top 50 women in tech. So obviously you've done something right here for you to get this recognition by Forbes. What benefit did you gain from being listed as one of the 50 women in tech?
That's a good question. What was the benefit? I see that, I see those, awards and accolades and etc. as means to an end. And I hope that if there were 5 people in the world who saw that and felt encouraged to become a high achiever, to go into technology, to go into games, to become an entrepreneur, to challenge the script of life and do something different for their lives and create their own world, I'm going to be happy, So it only requires 5 people. I'm going to be happy. So to me, it's like I try to take the benefit of those type of accolades to make sure that people see that they can also do that. Because I know it's super cheesy to say that, but if I can do it, anyone can. When I moved to this country 15 years ago, I could barely speak English. I couldn't go to my local pub and order a glass of red wine. It was insane. And my naivety brought me to here out of a bet with my partner. It's a long story, right? Maybe for another time. But, it's like I gave 10 steps backwards to go and spend like 6 months doing an English course so I could continue my career. And, those things are possible. And I'm not saying that I'm not rich or anything like that. There's not much money involved. It's just the sheer amount of determination for you to do something different in your life. And if those accolades can share with the world to say it is possible, as long as you put your heart and your mind and, your soul into the right path for you, then I'm going to be happy.
That's true. I like that. And I love that answer. You've seen the tech world. You're in the tech world. There's still a gender imbalance, and still many women are reluctant to go into that field because one, not knowing what the tech world truly is, one, not knowing how to get access to the tech world. As a woman yourself, how are you helping other women to overcome that barrier, to start becoming, to find that confidence in this tech world, in this space, and believe in themselves that they can do it?
Yeah, it's there are so many layers to what can be done, right? So if you look from a big society perspective, I think there are so many things that can be done from a childcare perspective. So I have a friend who's got a Rachel. She's a founder of Coral Kids, who provides the vision is to provide the best childcare service in the world, and companies like that and many other companies like that really help women to have enough time to dedicate to their careers and not be in the endless route of I have to stop working so that I can look after my kids and then maybe someday I'm gonna go back to the workplace, right? So this is like a big society problem that we need to solve. How do we provide childcare to women and parents, right? So that they don't interrupt their lives because they need to look after children, or it's very expensive in this country. But then you have the other layer, which is what we were talking about communication, right? So make sure that if you have achieved something, if you are about to achieve something, if you have something, anything that it's beneficial to the world, that you are also communicating, that you don't get stuck into the competence versus confidence side of things, right? Because sometimes women, we wait to feel that we have maximum competence so we have the confidence. And I challenge that because men kind of typically, stereotypically think the other way around. I'm going to project myself. I'm going to have the confidence, and competence comes because I'm going to be learning through that, through putting myself out there. So I always encourage other women to think from that perspective and say, hey, communicate more, and you're going to build the muscle of your confidence to keep achieving, right? And then the very micro level is mentorship, investment. So nowadays, I'm glad to be an angel investor in the technology sector and games. And I love to back other women because, you know, the percentage is really horrible. It's like, I don't know, 1 to 5%, depending on the research of dollars go to women founders. And so now that I'm in a good position to kind of to feed back into the ecosystem, I really look at women who are, you know, becoming entrepreneur and saying, what can you offer? Can I help you somehow? Not only via advising you or mentoring you, but also to put a little bit of my money to help your dreams come true, right? So I think, again, so many layers that people can do if they have money or not, right? It's there's a range.
What about companies? Do you think companies could also help in this process? Like more and more companies start reaching out. Do you think there's anything specifically for any company out there listening? Do you think there's anything they could do to encourage more women in tech?
Absolutely. I think it starts on hiring, right? So we at Bossa, we challenge all of the recruiters that we work with. We challenge them to bring us candidates that are diverse. It's like, I don't want you to be just recommending your mates because you placed them in jobs before, right? I want you to be looking who are the best in the market. And the world is global now. You can hire from anywhere. So there's no more excuses that, you know, there are not enough women in London that could do this job. Like, yeah, but there might be someone somewhere else in the world, right? So that is definitely very, very important. And of course, all of the D&I type of initiatives, right? So you want to have a space in your company where women are very okay to be putting themselves forward, to put themselves, you know, their ideas forward. And there's something that is called, I find it super interesting. It's called attribution theory. I don't know if you heard of it. Okay. So it's basically, there's tons of studies that show that when women fail at something in the workplace, they typically attribute the failure to themselves. They say, I failed, that was my fault. And when they succeed, they attribute to the team. Oh, no, that was my team. That's lucky. You know, I was so lucky. It was environment. It was my boss. They never attribute to themselves. And men do the opposite. Again, like research, stereotypical, but, you know, that's like generalization. They when they succeed, they say, yeah, I was in charge of that project, and that's why we made it happen. And when they fail, it's like, well, you know, there were so many other elements I couldn't control. And, and you know, unfortunately, I did my best, but I couldn't. And the key thing about this knowledge is how you deal with that on the communication side of things as a leader on the day-to-day. When you're having a one-to-one with your team, when you're talking to people in a meeting, when they are asking for promotion, right? It's like, how much are you listening and really observing the nuances of behavior and communication that maybe the woman is achieving so much more, but she's just quiet. She's just not telling enough as much as men. So again, it's like those specific things I think are very important for companies to be aware of.
Yeah, and it's very important. I love it because I love what you said about the recruiting process as well. Because then sometimes, you know, people don't want to search the water deep enough, so they just get the surface and give it to you and say these are the candidates, because they're used to not realizing sometimes you have to go deep to get more diverse candidates as well. So I love that. I hope other people listen to that and take that on board. You created a Hyper Curious podcast that celebrates our curiosity. What can we learn from curiosity?
So curiosity, according to a lot of amazing researchers nowadays, is what leads us to innovation. It's what leads us out of sense of failure, out of sense of fear. So one example is when you're feeling the fear of something, whatever it is, right? You're afraid of sending the email, making the call, or presenting something in front of people. If you think of that opportunity as with your curious mind, if you're like, oh, actually, I'm curious to hear how that particular person is going to react when I say that in the meeting, or I'm curious to understand how public speaking works, or I'm curious to learn what that person's going to say to me when I call them out of nowhere, right? So it's a matter of changing your perception of how you deal with things, and suddenly you drive yourself to do much more and to be much more courageous. And then there's this whole spectrum of curiosity related to innovation, and combined with creativity, it's even more powerful, right? It's the sense of if I'm curious about how combining this, this juice with this another juice, or this tea with another tea, right? What's going to happen? What is going to be the end result of it? I'm very curious to understand that. And suddenly you create something that you never had before. I do this, I'm talking about tea because I do this all the time. I mix a few different teas because I love tea. And loose leaf tea. So I mix like 2 or 3 of them. And sometimes the taste is terrible. But sometimes I find some new, tastes that I would never be able to find if I hadn't mixed them, like completely randomly.
Absolutely. I do the same as well. I mix teas. I never have the same tea bag. And people always wonder, why do you have to? I said, I just love to try things. And if I find I do mine with perfume. I never.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
Perfume. So everyone always asks me, oh, you smell lovely today. What perfume have you got on? Honestly, I don't know.
My invention.
I know, you got your whole mix of it. I'm like, you take it to slide, but I never know what I have on because I always mix my perfumes. I go, probably you today, then you today. Yeah. It's that's what I do. I do it tea and perfume. Those are the 2 things. I can't stick to just one. My mind is always curious to know. So it's nice.
I love that.
Now. So anyone who wants to catch your podcast, how do they catch your podcast?
So they can go to beta.lucca.com, beta.lucca.com/hypercurious. Or you just search for Hypercurious, Google it, or Hypercurious Podcast, or Apple Podcasts, and everywhere you're going to find it. It's pretty much everywhere. And that's what's fascinating for me is like, when I was coming up with the name of the podcast, as you know, you go through a lot of names, like what can I call it, right? What's going to be? I was talking to my team and the production team, and we had this realization: this is who I am. I am this hyper curious person, and I really want to talk to all these entrepreneurs and artists and book authors who are all about finding, following their curiosity to find their place in the world and to create new things. And the more I talk to people about that, who are also hyper curious, the more I learn to be even more hyper curious. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy for me. I love it.
Oh, perfect. I love that. My final question, Roberta, before I let you go. Women out there listening today will wonder what kind of resources can they utilize to help them to get more advanced in the tech world. And also, if you could just give a brief understanding, what is the tech world? Because we say it loosely. The tech world, I think, it is big. And it took me a while to get myself to understand this tech world. People say, oh, there's an investment in tech world. Like, what are you guys talking about? Now I do understand because I took my time to really understand it. So for anyone who don't understand, what resources can they take to get into it? And what really is this tech world space?
That's a big question. So I'll try to make it as simple as possible. I would start with, there's a book called, there are 2 books actually. The Lean Startup. There's another book that is called, oh my God, what's the name? I just forgot now, from Steve Blank. So if you search for Steve Blank, he's kind of the father of tech startups based in the US and etc. And the stuff that he talks about is very much about the basics of how do you create a startup from scratch, how you go about defining a problem, defining a solution, and applying technology to make something happen out of that. So and of course the whole kind of scientific mind for you to evolve your product. So chances are you're going to create a product, a tech product to the world that's not going to be the next Facebook. It's going to, require a lot of iteration. It will require like constant iteration, as you do with, with your podcast, with your YouTube channel, everything, right? In life. So you have to start very small, make sure that you have something that's called the minimum viable product, which is a very small version of your end goal and vision. And from there, you can iterate by having focus groups, talking to people, showing things to them, getting them to play with your app or whatever it is that you're creating, right? So I think that's the fundamentals if you want to kind of to understand the technicalities of how to start a company. And for everything else that is about mindset and etc., I mean, they should be looking at places like yours, places like mine. And, there are a lot of great entrepreneurs out there. If you look at the top 50 women in technology and you just, Google them, connect with them on LinkedIn, say, hey, I just found you on the internet and I think you're massively inspirational. Can we connect? Can we chat a little bit? Can you give me some advice? I mean, people are super busy nowadays, but with the right way to approach them, you will have at least 15 minutes of their time, right? You know that. So I think, not being able to reach out to people is the key for you to build your muscles, to have the courage to start.
Absolutely. No, this is great, Roberta. I'm really thankful for your time. I know how busy you are. But so grateful that you took the time out to help other women, not just women, even some men who are looking to get into this space but don't know how. It's all about finding your courage, be curious, and listen to your podcast as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
I enjoyed this. Thank you.